What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another video on the Big Blue in the Bronx YouTube channel. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Also, share this one out as well. Apologies for not being around the last few days. I was on vacation in Atlantic City with some of the crew members, so we were just having a fun time. Now it's back to football. Now it's back to baseball, channel stuff, whatever. We got a lot of good things coming for you guys. Constant content coming from here on out. The roster bubble series is done, by the way. It looks as of right now that the Giants are not going to add any new blood before the cutdown day unless something goes wrong. But they did add new blood in a different area, and this guy is definitely going to make the roster. I woke up this morning and my brother told me, hey, listen, the New York Giants just traded for Isaiah Simmons. And my first reaction at 9:30 in the morning, 10:30 in the morning was like, oh my God, wow, this is actually a very good trade. And if you guys remember in the first podcast episode that I ever did, now, of course, maybe most of you haven't listened to it, I was actually a big Isaiah Simmons supporter. I literally said that I would take him over Andrew Thomas, Jedrick Wills, Mekhi Becton, some of those other guys. Thomas was my top tackle, but at the end of the day, I wanted Isaiah Simmons because I'm like, Blake Martinez is a tackling linebacker. We haven't been able to cover tight ends for years, and this guy is just athletic in a lot of different areas. So just the career stuff on Isaiah Simmons, even going back to college, and then we'll get into what his role could be with the New York Giants. So he's 25, so he's still a relatively young player. Top 10 draft pick of 2020. He went to the Cardinals, of course. That's where we got him from. And to be fair, let's give Joe Schoen his props. This guy was traded for a 7th-round pick. Now, I don't know what Arizona is doing in terms of a fire sale because they sold off Josh Jones, former tackle out of Houston. I think they actually got more from that trade than they did the Isaiah Simmons trade, which is actually weird because Simmons is a better player than Josh Jones. But they also acquired Josh Dobbs. This is not a Cardinals video, but if you are a Cardinals fan, please, in the chat, give us some insight what your thoughts are on Isaiah Simmons. But this guy was a top 10 draft pick from Clemson, so he does have familiarity with another Clemson player on our defense. That's Dexter Lawrence. And he was with the Cardinals for the first 3 years of his career. Obviously now traded to the Giants. The only award he won in the NFL was the PFWA All-Rookie Team. And like in college, a couple of different guys in terms of the staff in Arizona wanted him to be that player. And he never really panned out for a lot of reasons. I think it was the fact that he was homeless. Now, of course, not homeless as in on the street, but homeless is like he didn't have a specific role defined over the last few years. He spent a lot of last year playing safety and corner rather than the first few years he played with Arizona at linebacker, and there were apparently reports that Isaiah Simmons didn't want to play linebacker and all these different things. But let's just go over the career stats, coverage stats, and then we'll go over snaps, weaknesses, strengths, and again, what his role could be with the New York Giants. So 2020, 16 games, 7 starts, an interception, a forced fumble, 2 pass deflections, 2 sacks, 54 total tackles, 3 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for a loss, and 5 quarterback pressures. And in those 16 games, he did play 34% of the defensive snaps. So first-round pick, defensive snaps only 34%. Quite interesting, but I would have to look more into it. 2021 with Arizona, 17 games, 17 starts, an interception, total of 4 forced fumbles, 7 pass deflections, 1.5 sacks, 105 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, and 6 quarterback pressures. And finally, 2022, I'm going to reference coverage stats in a second. 2022 had 13 starts, 17 games, 2 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown that was against the New Orleans Saints, I believe, on Thursday Night Football. 7 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 4 sacks, 99 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, and 6 quarterback pressures. Go back to coverage stats, which I referenced. 64% completion allowed in 2020. 102 passer rating, 3 touchdowns, matches up against 1 interception and 142 yards. 2021, 69% completion allowed, 473 yards, 2 touchdowns matching up against 1 interception, 90.9 passer rating. And then 2022 with the Cardinals, 54 completions allowed on 70 targets, 77.1 completion percentage, 2 interceptions, 4 touchdowns allowed, 104.3 passer rating. So he's been a mix and match type of guy. 92% of the defensive snaps in 21 and 81% of the defensive snaps in 22. And over the course of his career, he's played 1,077 snaps at inside linebacker, 432 at edge, slot corner 641, outside corner 65, free safety 63. Now, of course, at the NFL level, this is just my personal opinion looking at different guys coming from college, Jabril Peppers, Deone Buchanan, those type of guys, is it all flies well in college when you could play safety, you could play linebacker, you could play corner, you could play this, that, and the other thing. It all bodes well because it's college, you know. You're just trying to get a feel for things and a lot of different aspects. But when you get to the NFL level, I don't think much of that matters. Now, I know that's a hot take for some it may not be, but it seems like rather than having your talent spread out over a bunch of different areas and learning new positions at the NFL level with the game speed going up, it seems like that can be a lot for a rookie or a second-year player to have on their plate rather than just filing them at one or two positions and dealing with that. Now, strengths and weaknesses, he can cover tight ends. That was one of my things coming out of college with Isaiah Simmons, is this guy can cover tight ends. And the Giants really haven't been able to do that the last few years. It's slowed down, but it's still not at a rate where it's acceptable. So Isaiah Simmons, he's very good in man coverage on tight ends. His athleticism is still out there. There's a lot of different things with weaknesses that we'll go over in a second, but his athleticism is the same coming out of college. He is an athletic beast. Ball hawk. He's got 4 interceptions in a total of 3 years. Now, of course, for an inside linebacker, outside linebacker, guy who plays different positions, whether you say that's good, that's bad, that's indifferent, I think it's good personally because he's played 100 different positions and has never settled down at one, so you can't really say, okay, this is terrible for Isaiah Simmons. No. And he's also a solid pass rusher. He's got, let's see, in his career, he's got 7.5 sacks. And you know what? If the Giants place him in the right role, he could be really the third edge rusher in the room, aside Jihad Ward. And there's a lot of different things that could go into that, but we'll talk about the roles in a minute. Weaknesses, zone coverage, he's not great there. A lot of the times, he is a smart football player, but sometimes the IQ will lack in different areas. You know, he'll be focusing on a tight end, and then there's a running back coming out of the flat, and, you know, that's a part of his game that needs to be fixed. Of course, we will run zone coverage this season, the New York Giants being that is, but a lot of it's going to be man, so that's going to be suited to the strengths of a guy like Isaiah Simmons. Missed tackles and angles. Angles is a big one. In terms of missed tackles, he had 11 missed tackles in 2021. That's not really that good. 105 tackles, you can respect that, but the missed tackles, especially if they're in key spots, that's not something that will be shown on the stat sheet. You actually have to go back and watch the film. He had 5 missed tackles his rookie year, and he had 5 missed tackles last year with Arizona. And then homeless in terms of being on the football field, just not really finding a home. Versatility is great, but if you have your talent spread out in a couple of different areas and you have to learn every single position, it's going to get tiring. And this is where I'm going to get really into the role that Isaiah Simmons probably will have with the Giants. Of course, I could be wrong. I think he's going to play a mixture of linebacker and edge. Now, I think at times they'll probably put him at slot corner because, hey, listen, you know, confuse the offense with a couple of different looks, whatever. And if the tight end is in the slot, you could use him as a slot corner, slot linebacker. But I don't see him playing a lot of safety with the Giants. This preseason, he hasn't done well at that position, and I know that, yeah, he's not a big fan of playing Mike linebacker, but that's not really going to be his role. Run defense is also another weakness of his, but going back to his role, I don't think it's going to be immediate. I don't think it's going to be first couple weeks, he's going to be this, and this, you know, playing 55% of the snaps. I don't think it's going to be that. I think this is a project that the New York Giants want to work on. If it pans out, great, listen, you know, 7th round pick, That's cheeseburgers, peanuts, and fries. And if it doesn't work out, you gave up a 7th-round pick. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. He's a free agent next year. So I like this move for the Giants. Again, in terms of his role, I think it's linebacker and edge. Third down is going to be big, especially in terms of covering tight ends. And also having how many linebackers in the box. We've seen Wink do that with O'Shane Ximines, Tamon Fox last year, Kayvon Aziz. He has a lot of athletic upside, and if he could just pigeonhole himself, really the Giants staff as well, pigeonholing him into a linebacker edge type player, a hybrid, you're looking at better depth and versatility for those two rooms alone, and him not having to focus on a ton of shit. Like, oh, I got to worry about corner, I got to worry about safety. No. In my personal opinion, this is me, I don't think the Cardinals knew every single thing what to do with him, right? I don't think they knew what they were doing 100% of the time. That's my personal opinion. Now, of course, the weaknesses show up on film, but if you just put him at linebacker and edge, I mean, and this is not some guy we got to expect to be a first-round pick. This is a guy we traded for pennies on the dollar. We're only giving him, I believe, $1 million this year. So, again, doesn't have to live up to the hype of a first-round pick. Probably won't. But if he's a solid role player in this defense, eventually I do think he could possibly overtake Micah McFadden or Darian Beavers for that second inside linebacker job later in the season. Now, of course, we have to see how those guys do. And you know what? It's really not the worst thing in the world if he does that, because that's not necessarily a knock on Joe Schoen or the player development department. But it's like, hey, listen, you know, as long as Micah McFadden and Darian Beavers can be solid players as linebackers and part special teams, you're not going to worry too much about, oh my God, that they didn't pan out this, that, and the other thing. Isaiah Simmons coming in is a blessing, once again, for those two rooms, because you don't have to have so much of an emphasis on going to get an edge 3. Now, for my personal opinion, I think the Giants should go out and get Julian Okwara, who's from the Lions. But again, it just puts less pressure on the Giants in the edge room. And you don't necessarily have to go out and get a guy like Anthony Barr. You could stay 4 or 5 linebackers, one special teamer in the back. Darian Beavers is coming off of an ACL injury, and Micah McFadden is still improving as a player. So again, it's going to help the situation out, especially at linebacker, because Isaiah Simmons, he's coming in the system. But you also got guys like Beavers, McFadden having their own things to overcome, and that balances out because none of those guys are going to play 100% of the snaps next to Okereke. It's going to be, okay, Simmons will play some, Beavers will play some, Micah McFadden will play some. So I think the Giants created a lot of breathing room, more than people would anticipate with this move. I think this is a steal, not because I wanted him in 2020, but the athleticism is still there. There's a lot of upside. Once again, don't expect him to be Isaiah Simmons from Clemson, but he's going to be a solid player for the New York Giants. And if he's not, listen, look, sometimes you got to take risks. It's really a low-risk deal because he's a free agent and gave up peanuts and Cracker Jack for him. But anyway, I like the move for the New York Giants. Let me know in the comments as well what you think of the move. But I also want to go over this. We are now sponsored by SeatGeek, as many of you know, over 1.5K subs strong. Thank you guys for the recognition. We are now sponsored by SeatGeek, as just mentioned. Looking to go to a concert, a Giants game, a ball game in general. Now you can, with our help, get 20% off your entire order with the promo code Big Blue in the Bronx. Got a lot of stuff coming for you guys. Live streams, more of that. Maybe some betting, possibly too. Giants, Yankees, stuff like that. So peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool. Let's go Big Blue.